Hello everybody and welcome back to Certified Collectibles. This is another episode of First Appearance of the Week. This is Wednesday, September 10th, 2025. We'll be giving you all the first appearance in your comic shops today. Now this week we've got a pretty good lineup for you guys. I think we have 7 first appearances, 2 honorable mentions, so 9 titles all to go through. There's definitely some books in there you guys should pick up for your collection. So let's go ahead and get started for the first appearance of the week, beginning September 12th, 2025. First up from DC Comics, Batman and Robin number 25. This features the first appearance of the Quiet Man, a hitman. You know, like we always tell you guys with the DC Comics, really depends on what DC does with these characters they're introducing in the comics, as how important these characters are going to be in the future, and how important these particular issues are going to be in the future. You know, DC doesn't have the cinematic power that Marvel Disney has to get a lot of these characters onto the screen right away, so a lot of these characters, the popularity will definitely depend on good storytelling and word of mouth. That being said, this issue does introduce a new hitman called the Quiet Man. At this point, we really don't know much more about this character. We really don't know how fans and collectors are going to receive this character. So at this point, definitely going to be speculative. But like we always tell you guys with the DC Comics, probably worth specking on for the cover price. You know, for $3 or $4, you'll be sitting on a huge winner here if this goes big. If it goes nowhere, you're out $3 or $4. But you know, this character is being introduced into the Batman and Robin title series. This is not the Batman standalone series or Detective Comics, but you know, Batman and Robin, this series does have a fan base and collector base, and the fact that they are bringing this character into the Batman universe, that does give it a little bit more promise. So this one here, definitely going to be speculative, but in my opinion, probably worth picking up for a spec. Grab this here for a spec if you can. Next up from DC Comics, Children of the Round Table number 1. This features the first team appearance of the Children of the Round Table. This is Faye, Connor, Randall, Kelly, Kevin, Hanan, and Ash. Now, at this point, I really don't know much about this Children of the Round Table title series. Don't really know if this is going to be well received with fans and collectors. Don't really know what DC has planned for this particular title series. So this one here definitely going to be speculative. This is also a story starring children. So a lot of times fans and collectors don't really like these children-led stories. So this one here, definitely speculative. Maybe worth picking up for a spec, but this one here is one you may have some time on. Grab this here for a spec if you can. Can't, put in your B-list and take a look at it later on. Next up from DC Comics, Red Hood number 1. This features the first appearance of Henrietta Forrest, a new Angelique lieutenant. This also features the first appearance and death of Royale, and the first cameo appearance of the Tower, in voice only. In this issue, Jason Todd relocates to the city of New Angelique. In addition to that, this here is also the premiere issue of the Red Hood title series. This one here has a lot going for it. This is one we do think you guys should pick up and add to your collection. You know, Red Hood definitely has a fan base and collector base, and this issue here does have a few first appearances and apparently a death as well. So this is one we do think you guys should pick up. Like we always tell you with the DC Comics, really depends on what DC does with these characters. But this one here, with 3 first appearances, and this being the premiere issue of the new Red Hood title series, this one here is definitely worth consideration. Grab this here for your collection if you can. If you can't, put it in your B-list and take a look at it later on. Next up from DC Comics, Supergirl number 5. This features the first appearance of Titano and Candy, members of the Super Pet family. Now, there's been a lot of Super Pets being introduced in the comics recently. I think this has a lot to do with the Superman movie that was recently released into theaters. Everybody loves Superdog in that movie. So recently, there's been a lot of Super Pets being introduced into the comics. This one here features Titano and Candy, members of the Super Pet family. This is their first appearance. But this here is the Supergirl title series. Definitely not one of DC's stronger, more heavily collected series. And the Super Pets that are being introduced in the comics, I really don't know how long this trend is going to continue. Really don't know how long fans and collectors are really going to care about them. But that being said, this here is the first appearance of these 2 new pets, so maybe worth picking up for a spec. Definitely going to be speculative though. Keep that in mind if you do choose to pick this one up. So grab this here for a spec if you can. If you can't, put in your B-list and take a look at it later on. Next up from Marvel Comics, Spider-Verse vs. Venomverse number 5. This features the first full appearance of Cage, a symbiote bonded with a teen idol, previously introduced in the Deadpool Samurai digital manga. This also features the first appearance of spider-venom. Now this is one we do think you guys should definitely pick up for your collection. We always tell you guys, anytime they bring a new character into the Spider-Man universe, one you definitely want to have in your collection. Spider-Man, probably the most popular, most heavily collected franchise for Marvel Comics, and this issue here has 2 first appearances, so one you definitely want to pick up. This here is, of course, a Spider-Verse vs. Venomverse title. This is not a Spider-Man standalone series or the Amazing Spider-Man series. But like I always tell you guys, anytime they introduce a new character, it really doesn't matter which title series they introduce the character into. As long as they're bringing the character into the Spider-Man universe, these are books you do want to own at the cover price. This is one we do think you should pick up for your collection. Go ahead and grab this one. Next up from Darkhorse, Star Wars Tales from the Nightlands number 1. This features the first appearance of the Nightlander, a Star Wars boogeyman that seeks to possess a living host and bring chaos to the galaxy. Now, like we always tell you guys with the Marvel published Star Wars titles, it's usually a good idea to pick up the first appearance of new characters in those Marvel titles. This here is a Darkhorse published Star Wars title series. This one here is still important to pick up these first appearances. You know, Star Wars, the IP, incredibly strong, huge fan base, huge collector base still to this day, and they are bringing this new Nightlander character into the Star Wars universe. Like I said, this here is not the Marvel published Star Wars title series. This here is coming from Darkhorse, but still, anytime they bring a new character into that universe, one, you definitely want to own at the cover price. You don't want to chase these down years later for a lot more money. Now, I don't know if Marvel or Disney are going to have the cinematic rights to this Nightlander character that's being introduced into the Dark Horse series, but you know, like I said, it really doesn't matter. They're bringing this character into the Star Wars universe. There's such a huge fan base, collector base, still worth owning these books. And you know, the Dark Horse published Star Wars series, they're definitely not as heavily collected as the Marvel, so if this does go big, if this character becomes important, you know, there's not going to be a lot of people out there with these books. You definitely do want to be one of the few people that own this. This one here, another one we do think you should pick up for your collection, go ahead and grab this one. And finally from Valiant, Valiant Beyond, all new Harbinger #1. This features the first team appearance of the new Harbinger. Now this is one definitely worth consideration. Harbinger, that franchise, incredibly popular, huge fan base and collector base for the original Harbinger franchise. This here is this all new Harbinger. Don't really know how popular this will be with fans and collectors. But you know, like I said, the Harbinger franchise, the original, is very popular. It does have a fan base and collector base. So this one here definitely worth some consideration. It will be speculative if you choose to pick it up, because you are speculating on this being well received by fans and collectors. So this one here, definitely going to be speculative. Grab this here for a spec if you can. If you can't, put it in your B-list and take a look at it later on. And now for the honorable mentions. From Bad Idea, Survive #1. The Russian Akula-class submarine's orders were simple. Escort the cargo ship Turbanev across the Atlantic and safely deliver her to Cuba's shores. But someone aboard has a competing mission, sabotage. Now a fiery explosion has punched through the titanium hull, turning the once prized vessel of the Russian fleet into a watery tomb. 100 feet down and sinking fast, 2 lone survivors remain, a Russian sailor and an American spy. The final combatants in a war zone only 400 feet long and 40 feet wide. Locked in heated battle and buried beneath the weight of an entire ocean, each man is determined to kill the other before time runs out. But the fight to survive only starts on the ocean floor as these 2 men are pushed their limits and beyond in a fight against each other, the daedalus environment on Earth, and their own military forces to complete their mission and make it out alive as the world hangs in the balance. Now this one here sounds easily translatable to the screen. Sounds like it would make a great small screen or big screen project. And like we always tell you guys, Bad Idea, they have a foot in the door at Hollywood already. They kind of started out that way. So any of the comics that come out that sound like they can lend themselves easily to the screen, these are definitely worth picking up and adding to your collection. And I think I mentioned this before. I feel like Bad Idea is actually writing screenplays or actually writing pitches in these comic books. I think the idea is to get these books picked up and optioned for small screen, big screen projects. And if they do, these books are going to blow up. So that's why it's always a good idea to keep an eye on these Bad Idea titles. Like I said, if they sound like they can easily make it to the screen, definitely worth picking up. And this one here does. This is one we do think you should pick up for your collection. Go ahead and grab this one. And finally from Cosmic Lion, Detective Pickle PI #1. In the gritty, creature-filled streets of Delhi City, Detective Pickle PI is a chain-smoking, no-nonsense pickle with a reputation for being hard on crime. After losing it all, he's left to face mutant mobsters, crazed serial killers, and perverse extraterrestrials all on his own. Now, we put this on the list just because this sounds so absurd. And a lot of times these very absurd comics, these do get a cult following. Oftentimes they are picked up in option. They don't always make it to the screen, but they do have option rights attached to them. And this one here, I don't think a lot of people are picking this up off the shelf. You know, I don't think a lot of people are seeking out a story about a pickle detective. So this one here is definitely going to have a shorter print run. It's definitely going to be undersold when it comes out. Definitely going to be under-collected. People are not going to pick this book up and hold it long term. So if you are one of the few that do, you may have a winner here. Like I said, very obscure comics like this, especially really absurd titles or stories like this, they often develop a cult following later, and they do tend to explode in price. So this one here, definitely going to be speculative. But in my opinion, this one here is worth the spec. If you can find this one, definitely grab this here for your collection. So there you have the 9 titles that we have for you guys this week. There's definitely some books in there you guys should pick up for your collection. So please feel free to drop some comments in the comment section below. Thumbs up if you like this video. And as always, please remember to subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Thank you for joining us here at Certified Collectibles, and we'll see you again next time.